to the Deep Rooted Podcast. You're here with Jeff and Rochelle Ferguson, and we're just excited to be continuing our talk on mission. So this is Be on Mission, Part 2. And if you are listening on Facebook, could you just like and share? If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a review, subscribe, please, or on YouTube, Spotify. I don't even know all that we're on. You just tell me.
Basically, everywhere where you listen or watch podcasts, that's where we are, I think.
So hopefully, because if you're listening, it's there. So If you could subscribe and share, that would be great. Hey, we're excited to get talking about being on mission, continued.
Yes. Being on mission, and we talked starting last week, talking about this discipline of the life plan.
Yes.
The discipline of the life plan, something that has drastically changed my life all the way back till 2005.
Yeah.
And I think it helps people really understand what God's called them to do and how to do that. And not
it's
just,
helped us, and so we want to help you.
And you said something last time that I think is important for people to know, and that is, this is so important because we need to live the call God's placed in our life. If not, somebody else is going to vie for that attention, and the call's too important.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just have to make sure that we understand that this is a vital part of our life. You have been called to serve Jesus, and you have unique calling on your life. Those you are called to influence, those who you are called to reach through your gifts, talents, I just think through how God has made you. And if we fail to do that just because we fail to plan or we fail to be intentional with our lives, people will actually miss out. Yeah. We'll miss out, but we have the opportunity to impact others. And so I just want to encourage you, you have a calling, and God wants to use you in incredible ways that he can't use me and he can't use you because you have been uniquely designed for a specific purpose. And so be encouraged. I think that's an encouraging word. I think it's also a weighty challenge because God's asked us to follow through with that, to live a life worthy of the calling that you've received.
That's what Paul says.
Yes.
And I love that verse. And so last week we talked about mission, and we encourage everyone to sit down, pray, ask God, what is the mission that you've assigned me?
Yeah.
And so I wrote it down. My mission is to know Jesus, declare his word, and multiply what he's given me. And really, even this podcast is kind of fruit from maybe what you wrote down in your life plan and me in mine. And so that's so huge. The mission is huge. Part number 2, this is a big deal. And I'm glad Rochelle's here today to talk about, you're with me all the time, but to talk about this because she really can highlight some things that it's really important in this. And number 2 is identify key areas that you want to see transformation and growth in your life.
Yeah.
And so I like the fact you're here because when I teach this, I often say, choose 7 areas of your life, okay? And I think that's good. I have 7 areas in my life where I want to see transformation, but I think it's important to be flexible on this point.
Yeah, because sometimes, to be honest, after I've been in some of the teaching on this that you've led, I'm like, okay, I get a little frustrated when you say 7 all the time because I'm thinking for when you're just starting out, 7 seems daunting.
It does.
To me, I'm like, okay, I just got to focus on a couple and then I can add more later. But if I have to really focus on 7 right away, I'm like, all right, might as well be done.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll happen, because I'm more of a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. You're more the planner.
That's why God put us together.
Yeah. And so, I think here's what I would just throw in. 7's great. It's the perfect number. That's wonderful. But I also think if you can pick one area of your life and make improvements in there, if you can really know what God's saying to you in that area of your life and go forward, I really believe you're going to see some results. You can add more as you go along, but you're really going to see some real great fruit if you really follow through with it.
And that's the point, is to see fruit. The point is not to stick to some rigid
Right. It's not about 7. It's just about moving forward. We're not going to be stuck. We got to move forward.
And so picking these areas of life is huge because, again, we need to be intentional. And I want to encourage you to those who are, probably every one of us, who are in the what we would call the grind of life, that we do not need to wait until life slows down, wait until the kids get older, wait until stuff stops to make a life plan. Because if we needed to wait,
I think we'll just be waiting forever.
We'd be waiting forever.
Yeah, because I think life, it just happens. Your dishwasher breaks. Right now, we're in the midst of having to replace all of our fire alarms because they twerp all the time, and it's not a battery issue. It's like, apparently you have to change these every 5 to 10 years. That's a free nugget here on Deep Rooted.
But I'm just saying, for you watching.
But I'm just saying that is normal. That's going to happen. Interruptions, grind. It is, it's just going to happen. And if you wait until all that stops, we'll never accomplish what God has for us.
On that, I like to think about this story. A couple years ago, I really think it was 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m., and dead asleep. And I hear this, daddy, 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 across the monitor. And I rush in the room, and it's our middle daughter, Joy.
At that time, she was probably about 4 or 3.
About 4 years old.
4.
And I go in there, and I'm just trying to, figure out where I am, what I'm doing. And I said,
how did I get here?
Joy, what's the matter? And she said, Daddy? I said, yes. She said, what's the last number? I said, what? She said, what's the last number? And I said, there is no last number. I said, let's go to bed. She's like, okay. I said, love you. And I go into the bed, and Rochelle's said, what did she want?
Yeah, I'm thinking, did she have a bad dream? Did she need water?
No. I said, she wanted to know what the last number was. And thank you. We could have waited. And I only tell you.
Could that not have waited till 8 a.m.?
It could have waited. But I just tell you that because we're in the grind of life in many ways in parenting. And
just
so,
how it is.
But that also means that we can still be intentional about how we live life. And so
and we can actually use one of the areas of our life to study math, like to be mathematicians,
exactly.
To be able to answer our daughter's questions. I'm just teasing.
And so as you think about these areas, what area of life, I want to talk about the law of priority.
Okay.
Because this...
So good. Tune in. Keep listening.
This
so good.
Quite possibly is something that I will say I have violated. Every one of us have violated, and not intentionally.
But I want to say I think you have to always know that this is going to be a constant reevaluation. The law of priority, what comes first in your life, where you spend your time, how you spend your money, how you every part of that. It's never just set it and forget it.
Exactly.
It's going to be a constant reevaluation, especially even between in a marriage. Okay, How are we doing?
Yep.
Okay, we're doing pretty good right now. Oh, okay, I sense that some things are off here. And so don't think of it as failing. Just think of it as
that's good.
Something that you have to constantly go back and adjust.
Because there is going to be adjustments.
Right.
Constant adjustments. And so as we talk about the law of priority, how about I go first and we'll just kind of go back and forth?
Yep, sounds good.
First, when we think about this, as far as our priority, the first that comes into mind is private and corporate worship. And I did these two together because both of these are important. We can't neglect.
You have to have both.
You have to have both. Private and corporate worship. This is developing and cultivating a passionate relationship with Jesus Christ. So this is solitude. This is silence. This is fasting, scripture memorization, Bible reading, church attendance.
Yes.
Church attendance is so huge for me, for us, for our children. And so public and private worship
go hand in hand.
Go hand in hand. Yes. And I think that's huge.
Yes. And so that's got to be number one. Number two, family. Yeah. Your family, and what does your family consist of? I think this is so, it's just really huge to define. Family, in our case, is we are a family. We are the unit, mom and dad. We are the familial unit, and then our 3 children that live in our home. They're our immediate family. They have got to have that second priority. You think about raising children. You don't have forever. I mean, sometimes, I begin to think about my own kids. I think, how are you already getting this old? And then, early on it was like, okay, will they ever, be able to feed themselves, or whatever, all the things that they have to do. And so time just flies, but being intentional in your family, building intentional relationships within your family to strengthen one another in their walk with the Lord and to build one another up. And so it's got to be intentional.
It's a big family. The third area is ministry. And everybody has a ministry. Everybody needs to be engaged in ministry in some level, because God has given us, you look throughout Scripture, God has given humanity, every person, something in which you have value, you have a call. Rochelle said it right at the beginning, and we need to put that call to use. And so I minister to my family. Hopefully, I endeavor to minister to but it's not the same. I can't say my family is my ministry, because I minister to my family, but also I need to have a place where I'm being used in the body of Christ, where I'm pouring out. Somebody needs what I have. Somebody needs what you have. You're watching. We've heard it. You all need a Paul. We all need a Timothy. Someone pouring in and someone to pour
pour
into.
ourselves out to. Yeah.
So I think that's huge.
And we need to have a ministry. And if you're not involved in one, I'd say contact your local church.
Yes.
My goodness, the church that you are involved in, I guarantee you call and say, I need to find out my ministry gifts. I really believe they want to help you, in doing that. Fourth is your extended family and friends. Hey, it's so important to have great relationships with your extended family, with friends, to be able to pour into them, and they come after your ministry. So.
That's good. The next one is work. So that's a huge priority, but work right there comes after, obviously, the first one, private and corporate worship, and then on down the line, family, ministry, extended, and then work. It's right there. And I will say, if we put it in that place, we will be so fruitful and productive at work and everywhere else in our life.
And then the last is recreation. Yep. So having a hobby, things that you do for fun, things that you do to maybe de-stress, all of that. Yes. It definitely needs to be a priority in your life. But sometimes we can see that being the first priority in people's lives, putting, deer hunting or fishing or, shopping. I don't know, whatever your hobby is, that sometimes it can get out of whack and become a number one idol in our lives. And so obviously it has its place, but it needs to have its right place.
When we look at it in this framework, the important thing is we can't sacrifice something of higher priority for lesser priority.
Right.
Whenever we do that, we're going to get out of whack, and our life is going to feel like it's not moving as God intended it, because God's supposed to be number one. In the same sense, I can't look at my wife and say, well, God's pretty important. I think he deserves 90%, 92% of my time, so I got to split my time between him, and you're going to get good percent, but you're not. It's not like that either. It's not like a piece of the pie. When we do this well, and when we continue, like you said, have flexibility, we place God at the center, we're going to be able to do all areas of our life well.
And here's the thing. I feel that, because if I were listening to this, and if this were new to me, or a reminder, I think my first objection to these laws of priority would be like, okay, great. That sounds really wonderful in theory, but I only have 24 hours in a day. And so if you're sitting here telling me that the law of priorities, that God's got to be first, my family's second, and work's all the way down there at like 4, but work takes a large percentage of my day. Yeah. I mean, you got to sleep, you got to eat, you got to, go to the grocery. And so I don't see how I'm living this in my life, because work is getting the largest percentage of my time, maybe on a Monday or something. I want to encourage you. This is not about time, although time is a factor, but it's so much larger than that. I think it's about perspective and intentionality. I really want to say it's about living holistically. So when you say God is first and public and private worship are first in my life, does that mean that God gets over 50% of my day? I would submit to you, I hope God gets 100% of your day.
So good.
Not about, and you're like, well, how does that... when I am in appropriate relationship with God, when I have a passionate relationship with Jesus, I can appropriately do all those other things.
And
so,
yes.
that is how it's like a mindset shift. It's not about penciling in red different categories and green is another category and certain things. That exhausts the life out of me.
And it will out of you as well.
I mean, it
eventually.
really, it's exhausting to me. I know I'm not even built that way. Like that overwhelms me. But it's about God getting the focus. So by working on our marriage and making that a priority, by focusing on my children and doing that, I am honoring Jesus if I have the right perspective.
Yeah.
When I give my all at work, I am honoring Jesus. And so I just don't want you to think, okay, well, I got to say no to going to bowling night because that's, no, that it may mean saying no to bowling night. I don't know. You have different seasons in your life. We've had to learn this through seasons of life.
Yeah.
When we were married and it was just you and I and we had no kids, I tell you what, we didn't care. We were just like, we work all night long. I remember we got this idea when we were youth pastors to do these really cool invites. And we were going to reach this whole city for Jesus. And we actually had a really amazing outreach.
It was
Hundreds
awesome.
of kids got saved and stuff. It was great. But we're like up till midnight hand cutting these geometric
It was,
invitations.
I would do it differently, but hey, we did.
But you remember,
I
and I mean,
that.
it didn't matter. We're like, cool. We
That's
can
awesome.
hang out together. And do, well, when you have kids, some things change. That doesn't mean the ministry doesn't get the attention. That doesn't mean that our job doesn't get the attention. It means we got to shift some priorities.
Exactly. And that's freeing to think that way.
It takes
Very
work, though.
freeing.
It's super freeing, but you got to communicate. You got to communicate with the people around you. I remember when we first had our oldest daughter, and I thought, how am I going to do this? I want to be all in for ministry. God's called me, but I got to care for this baby who I love. But, what do I do? How do I manage all this? I said, okay, I got to take it to the Lord. Yeah. And you and I got to talk, and we got to figure out how it's going to work.
I remember where I was sitting on the couch, and we were talking. And it was a good talk.
And it was great. And I'm telling you, if you don't be intentional, one thing will just basically not exist.
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times again. People have children and they just like forsake ministry and forsake coming to church. And I'm thinking, this is the time when you need to be in church more than ever because you're leading little ones now. So it can happen in any way, but you got to have talk, and it's got to be holistic.
Yeah.
Every part of your life, all those priorities functioning as like a current, and they're all working together.
That's a good way to think about it.
I just don't want us to get bogged down. Yes.
Well, too, we think, well, I did my time with the Lord this morning. Check. Therefore, He's first.
I spent 20 minutes reading the Bible. Check. No. I think if we really know Jesus and we're wanting to spend time with Him and grow in His Word, we're going to spend the whole day with Him.
Yeah.
We're bringing Jesus along everywhere we go,
So this is such a mindset shift.
Yes.
That's why the life plan is so huge. I think sets you up to live life how God intended. Because again, it doesn't orient God around our life. We orient our life around God's.
Yes.
That's like the tagline for the life plan.
You can rewind that and say that again because I don't even know if I could repeat that. That was so
repeat
good.
it.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm not that good.
But it was good.
But so let me encourage you. So we figured out the mission. Well, let me just say you won't ever figure it out per se. But maybe you have it written down. It's evolving. So go and think about those 7 areas. That one area maybe. So I have in mind.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
I do need to tell you this is what it give and
good.
take. Family in mind. I have marriage in mind because I want to always be growing in my marriage and several others. But
fitness.
Physical.
Physical. I mean, you got to take care of your physical body.
Yeah.
There's so many areas
again,
of
if
work.
you have a plan for recreation, how am I going to have fun?
Fun is important.
Need to get better at that. I need to get better at having fun.
Yeah, we're buying bikes this year.
Yes.
When it gets warmer, we've already decided biking is going to be our fun activity this year.
I'm going to be a cyclist. I never thought
Are you going to wear the cyclist spandecky things?
You know what? I kind of envy that. So
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, but I won't put out a picture.
TBD, anyway. To be determined.
So go ahead. If you want to not listen to what I just said, that's fine. About the cyclist outfit.
Yeah, move forward.
But go ahead and do that. Figure out those areas and watch God through this process Don't get uptight. Watch God, how he speaks and how he uses you. The next time, we're going to talk about the next part of the life plan. So
yeah, we'll wrap it up then. But hey, you know what? Thanks for joining us. We love you guys. We're so glad that you're just joining us on this journey. Hey, if this has been helpful to you, could you just share it with a friend?
Yes.
And bring others along in the journey. So
awesome.
All right.
Praying for you guys.
Yes. All right. Have a great day.